And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Thursday, June 27th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, let's get into what we are going to talk about today on the show. So, we're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. Some updates on the contract situation with him and why the Dolphins, it seems like they're not willing to pay Tua the amount that Trevor Lawrence got or Jard Goff got. So we'll get into that. Then in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence. We'll go over the Jaguars' schedule. So we're almost done with the schedule breakdowns. We got one more division to go after the AFC South here. But yeah, so we got the Jaguars today. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about Brandon Ayuk and the meeting between him and the 49ers. And I'll give you my thoughts on that. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll talk about Amari Cooper and some comments that he made because he's looking to get paid. So I'll get into that as well. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Trey McBride, the tight end for the Cardinals, his comments on Kyler Murray and him talking about Kyler Murray maybe being an MVP candidate. So we'll get into all that. So let's start off the show by talking about the Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. So he is one of the latest quarterbacks that is looking to get paid. You have him, you have Jordan Love that are still looking for new deals, and then of course with the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. But there are some reports out there that the Dolphins, it seems like they're not looking to give Tua a contract that is at the price of Trevor Lawrence's or Jared Goff's. So Goff signed earlier in the offseason. He signed a 4-year, $212 million extension with an average annual value of $53 million. And then Trevor Lawrence signed a 5-year contract, $275 million, and that was for $55 million, which is the same amount as Joe Burrow. So it seems like they're kind of working through it, the Dolphins and Tua. And it doesn't seem like there's a panic at the moment, but there is a difference between the two sides. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. But right now, Tua, he's set to make $23.2 million in the final year of his rookie contract. So we'll see what the Dolphins end up doing. Whether they let him play out the final year of his contract or they do end up coming to an agreement before the regular season starts, we'll have to see. But when it comes to Tua, again, I thought that he was solid last year. And, all of us can agree that we were happy to see that he was able to stay healthy. Because the year before that, we didn't know what his career was going to be like, how long he was going to play because of the concussions that he dealt with the year before. But he was able to stay healthy. He put up good numbers. He led the league in passing yards, and he put together a solid season. But I think the Dolphins, they're looking for a little more out of Tua, and I think that combined with the concerns over the injuries, because again, injuries can happen again. That's probably why they are not willing to go to the price of a Trevor Lawrence and a Jared Goff. And I agree with that. I think they should let Tua, because we talked about this in our production meeting, and I think either you come to an agreement, before the season, or you let Tua play out the final year, and you see what he can do after that. Because, I think the Dolphins, they still want to see what he can do. And this is a very good team on paper. especially on offense. Defense, they're trying to get guys back. I mean, they dealt with a ton of injuries on defense down the stretch last year. But yeah, I mean, you want to see more out of Tua. And I know I keep bringing this up, but they only beat one team with a winning record last year. And I want to see Tua go up against these better teams on the schedule and show that he could beat these teams. That's part of it. I think there's that. You want to see the Dolphins go far in the playoffs too. Because if they could do that, and Tua's a big part of that, well, yeah, he's going to get a big payday. So I kind of like the approach that the Dolphins are taking, that they're not going to just throw money at Tua just to, throw money at him. They want to see, if he can repeat what he did last year. And last year, passed for 4,600 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I mean, you would like the interceptions to be a little lower. And, maybe, throw 30-plus touchdowns. And I think if, Tyreek Hill doesn't get hurt in that game against the Titans, maybe you do get into the 30s. So, I mean, like I said, I like the approach that the Dolphins are taking with this. And we'll see. I mean, I don't know how much better his numbers can be, especially with the passing yards. I mean, 4,600 yards is a lot. But he's got the playmakers around him where, he can get to that number once again. But I think the interceptions you want to see a little lower. Interceptions lower, touchdowns higher. And I think he could get to 30-plus touchdowns. I think he could go past that. But we'll have to wait and see. And the division, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. The Bills did get a little weaker. The Jets are going to be better. So you're going to have to deal with that. And, you're playing in a loaded conference. We know this. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But, again, I think if you just have Tua play the final year of his contract out and see if he could, repeat what he did in 2023, maybe the numbers are a little bit better, then he's going to get that contract that, some of the other guys have gotten. So, and he's got, like I said, he's got the playmakers to do it, to go out there and have a good season. He's got one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's got, one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the NFL. And Jalen Waddle, I think he's up there. I think it's fair to say that. You got a good running game behind you. So, I think he can do that. Now, for me, I've said, I think Tua, was solid last year. But, I'm not going to say he's an elite quarterback. I think he's kind of like maybe slightly above the mid-tier, in my opinion. But, go out there and prove me wrong. And if he does that, the Dolphins, hey, they could win their first playoff game since 2000. And that's something that Mike McDaniel has been emphasizing, in organizing meetings. So, having meetings start at the 24th minute of certain hours. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is a big year for the Dolphins and a big year for Tua. Because, if he doesn't get that new deal before the season starts, I mean, that could definitely motivate him. Go out there and show it. That you could do it again. Have the same kind of season you had last year, but, maybe even better. And we'll see. But, I'm somebody that doesn't believe he should be paid the same amount as Joe Burrow, who's getting $55 million. Trevor Lawrence is getting $55 million a year. I don't think he should be getting that kind of money. But the Jaguars did it. And if the Dolphins do that, which it doesn't seem like they're going to, that's their guy. And Tua's coming off of a good year. So you would understand it. But I don't I wouldn't agree with it. But it seems like they're not going to do that. So we'll see how this all plays out. This is something that we'll keep an eye on as we get to, we're a little over a month till the preseason. So, I mean, by then, if Tua doesn't have a new deal, I mean, who knows? Maybe he gets it right before the season starts. And we're still waiting on Jordan Love, too. Jordan Love's another guy, like I said, that's, looking to get paid. So we'll have to wait and see. But, yeah, it's doesn't seem like we're getting a deal right at this moment. Anything can happen, but at this very moment, it seems like the two sides, the Dolphins and Tua, they're kind of a little apart on things. So that's really my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about Tua and the Dolphins. Do you think they get a new deal done before the season starts, or do you think the Dolphins should let Tua play out the final year of his contract, see what he does, and then make a decision after that? Like I said, it's going to be a big year for the Dolphins. They have a lot of talent on this team. They've made the playoffs the last couple of years, but they haven't been able to win a playoff game. So we'll see if they can get it done. And again, the biggest thing for me is last year they did not play well against the good teams. Against the Chiefs, against the Bills, against the Ravens, the Eagles before they collapsed. I want to see the Dolphins go up against a good team in 2024 and win some of these tough games that they have on their schedule. So that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think about the Tua contract situation. So we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Jaguars' schedule. I'll break it down. That's actually the team that the Dolphins will be opening up against. So we'll get into all that when we come back from our first break of the show. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.